welcome everyone to the first ever CGL podcast, also known as The Watch. Welcome. I am your host, Joker's Ransom. I'm here with Big Sam, Chipmunk, and Quad Zach. I don't really know how to say your name. I'm just going to call you Quad.
That's fine.
So a little bit about the podcast. We're going to be talking about all things Overwatch League and Overwatch League Fantasy. And I'm really excited to talk about it. We've got Big Sam as our APAC analyst. We've got Chipmunk as the NA analyst. And we've got Quad as our fantasy analyst. So, well, before we get into anything else, why don't you tell us about yourselves? So, I'll start with Sam. You're first.
I actually can't see Sam's camera as is currently on the stream.
And I can't either. I'm trying to figure it out.
Tech difficulties, PogChamp.
The CGL version of Kevster.
Yeah, just throw the Kevster cam up there.
I got you. Wait,
Yeah,
give
just
me a second.
Just do that, because Kevster.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. We'll fix it for next time. But Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself.
32 years old, graduate school for an MBA, work full-time, grinding Masters and GM full-time. I rotate between the Xbox Series X, the PS5, and the Switch. Also do play-by-play and color casting for any leagues.
Okay, Chipmunk, what about you? You have probably the biggest ego on this
Easily.
on this podcast. So tell us about yourself. I know you love talking about yourself.
Oh yeah. First of all, you're gonna need to drink about 700 liters.
Sam, I like your picture.
You need to drink. Yeah, you gotta chug the entire thing. There's been like 100 hydrates redeemed.
I see that.
like we need to start chanting chug over here. Either way, hi, I'm Chipmunk. I'm a child who happens to cast Overwatch, and I also coach a team, play on the team, and I suck at whatever I do.
Fair enough. And last but not least, we have Quad on the fantasy aspect of things. How are you doing, Quad?
I'm doing swell tonight. A little bit about myself. I've been playing Overwatch and scrims and leagues for about 3 years now. Been following fantasy for the past 2 seasons, and currently I'm in like 7 leagues or something like that. Some call it a hobby. I call it a passion. We could say
a lifestyle. That's what we like to see here. And as we get into this, we'll first start off about Overwatch League Week 1. What an incredible week of Overwatch we saw there. We saw the San Francisco Shock lose in 6 maps to the Houston Outlaws. And no one thought that was going to happen. No one thought that was going to happen. Everyone thought they were going to be as bad as they were last year. But or they can't be as bad as last year because of their pickups, but they weren't going to be that world beater that we're seeing at right now.
Well, here's the thing. Well, I did not put it in my predictions. I think. Oh, by the way, chat's saying that you're scamming them with only 2 sips.
Unlucky.
You have to chug the whole thing. There's been like 20 hydrates redeemed. Give the people what they want, Joker. But either way, I'm obviously the people's man on this lineup. But either way, after Houston beat Dallas, I feel like there was something about them going into the San Fran game, and I held by my predictions before the week. I didn't change them, even though you can. I chose not to because you know what? I'm a boss like that. I stay true to my predictions, but I feel like they definitely had a lot of momentum going into it. I could see them beating it, but I just didn't see it tank wise. I just feel like they didn't have the tank line, but now we're looking at Chengdu and Piggy could be one of the best tank lines in NA, honestly. I feel like right now we're looking at our best 2 tank lines, and finally Texas is best in at least one of these things, because it's looking like Jonggu and Piggy and Hanbin and Fearless looking very strong. And that's me half being a homer and me half not being a homer. I'm not biased at all. It's not at all like the shirt that I'm wearing says a lot.
Yeah, and not even just that. We also saw a big thing in APAC with Chengdu 3-0ing Shanghai. And that was another just no one saw it coming. Everyone knew they were going to be a lot better this year. A lot better with those additions of Gaga, Jimmy, and then that new support line that they got. But Sam, what are your thoughts about that game?
You can switch a lot of things up with teams. Like you can do 2 projectile, 2 hit scan. You can do 2 you do 2 flex supports, whatever. But the most important position of that team is the main tank, because your main tank is normally a shot caller. And I was questioning how they would look without Fearless, with him going in the off season, with him main tanking. And I think that played a huge role in them, because when you lose your main tank and a shot caller, you really have to incorporate that as a new person in. And if it's not gelling together, they're still trying to get that communication verbiage down. It can mean for a rough few weeks until everything gets, like the way it was last year. Like Fleta can carry, your supports can carry, but it's just at the end of the day, if your main tank's not stable or not communicating well, or different verbiage or just different play styles, it's going to make for a long season.
And this kind of intertwines with the NA side too. Obviously, Fearless went to Dallas Fuel. This is why a lot of people were more high on Dallas Fuel, and a lot of people still predicted Shanghai to win APAC. And what, they still can. It's not like losing
Right.
1 or 2 games is going to stop them. But we've learned today that the people who said that Fate is about as good as Fearless are 100% wrong.
And
Because Fearless looked phenomenal in the first week. Like, there was 3K primals, there was incredible zoning, got more value out of nanos than anyone else did playing Monkey that first week. It was beautiful for Fearless across the board. So the people who were saying that Fate is about the same as Fearless, that they're equivalents, and that Shanghai will be fine, it's obviously not looking like they're the same team.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And I think it really just went into Moon wanting Fearless, or sorry, Fate back in his lineup, and that wanting of that player might really be that downfall of the Shanghai Dragons, because I feel like it changes their entire play style. Fate isn't that go getter that Fearless is, that will go in, get 3, and win you a fight. Fate is that stable main tank, kind of like Mono, but not as impactful, I feel. And he's just there. He won't make you a mistake. He just does his job, and he does it well, but I don't think he's a Fearless replacement.
Right. I don't want us to underestimate Chengdu here either, though. I don't think it was just a fluke that
definitely
Shanghai lost. I think you got to take into account how well Gaga performed. He was obviously a top
Yes.
prospect coming in this season, but we really got to see him come out strong. And we'll get into this in a little bit here. But if you haven't invested in Chengdu on fantasy yet, you should, because they had very few maps this week, which might mean that their scores look a little lower. But with the prowess that they brought into the games they brought in, buy low, sell high. You can definitely get in on that bandwagon quick.
I'm feeling very confident picking up Elsa, much more confident than I did at the beginning of the season. Now looking at my, so I had Krong and Tuyu, which this week they both have buys, but because of the way that the season's played out in APAC, Hotba Elsa is not a bad start.
Right.
Like, I think you could play Hotba Elsa week to week.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the flexible meta that we're seeing right now, you see a lot of diva. And frankly, we talked about this when we were planning for this, but Krong was known for his Sigma. And while he put out mad fantasy numbers last season, this season I don't expect him to put up as solid. It's still going to be good, but Hotba and Elsa, along with a few other off tanks, are really going to come through with their diva performance here.
Although you can't discount Elsa's sim. You remember that one time on Hanamura, that crazy Chengdu teleport tracks where Elsa was playing the sim. That was just wild. So that's
Yeah,
actually
I
what I
mean,
picked up Elsa for, 100%.
frankly, I'm investing in Chengdu for fantasy, not just because of how well I think they're going to do as a team, but also if you take into account that in previous seasons they had potential and they had all the ingredients except for that main tank role, because you had some folks in there that weren't necessarily putting out the value that Gaga is currently, and I think that that's really pulled them all together. I will say, unfortunately, Faraway was a big prospect for the fantasy folks out there and did not get any playtime at
Yeah,
all. So Monk is a very viable option who's often in the free agent pool right now. It's a good pickup at this point.
Yeah, I picked him up instead because, like you said, far away didn't get any playtime. So Monk was sitting there in the free agency for our CGL staff league that we're running, and I got him, putting him in for this week because I believe, well, my second flex, my other support, Kariv is on a bye week this week.
And
Right.
speaking of supports and in fantasy, could you just lay out who were our top three players scoring wise last week?
Sure.
Since most of them were ending up being supports.
Right. So I've got it up right here. I'm not going to rehash too many of the obvious names here. Obviously, Violet performed well even with his McCree play. He still scored well in fantasy, which is pretty exciting to see. And I'll say that I've seen him play McCree on his stream before, and could see how good it was there. But he really came through on that this week as well. But Crimzo, number one performer, and this is not a surprise to folks who really rode the Crimzo bandwagon last season. I think
Is it a
he's,
bandwagon?
at some point it has to be, because he was like the sleeper pick for last season, because no one expected him to put up the numbers that he ended up putting up, but he was in the top, I think, 10 or 15 overall last season.
True, but
So
isn't fantasy just a game of bandwagons then?
I mean, to a
This
degree,
guy's
yeah,
popping
to a
off in,
degree.
in the free agent. It's time to pick him up.
Right, but I think specifically one of the things that's important for fantasy is a lot of people aren't playing in super competitive fantasy leagues. A lot of people are playing with their friends, and when that's the case, people just barely watch Overwatch, might not be as familiar with names like Crimzo as they are with names like Jonak. So I think it's important to pay attention to like the scores and the way people are playing their game, because if you look at Monk's aggressive nades, he might have only had 3 maps in, but he was really popping off on those nades. So I think as we start to dig into that deeper, we can name a couple other people who are like really good big brain pickups that are probably in your free agents, or you could probably trade if someone didn't notice how well they performed last week. My personal favorite is one that I took a gamble on before this fantasy season. It's Juby. The reason why I picked Juby here is, to myself, before the season started, I was like, if this kid's coming out of collegiate and going straight into Owl, there's got to be something there. They've got a great roster. I think he's got potential. Let's give him a shot. And man, he performed. I don't expect to see 100+ point performances in fantasy from him every week, but in these long games, which I think we'll see a lot of with Houston, he really put out value there, and he was in free agents in almost all of my 6 or 7 fantasy leagues. Michelle, also another huge pick, not necessarily in the free agent pool, but Michelle did outperform expectations like crazy this week. And the last one I'll say is a bit of a question mark. I think it's worth a gamble, but hard to say, is Repel, because it looks like Dallas are going to continue to do this cursed thing of splitting playtime between the supports. And Repel did get the extra map over Fielder last week here. So I'm going to invest in it. I don't necessarily think that you have to as a team. If I was like, running the team, I wouldn't want it. But as a fantasy player, I'm going to pick him up because he was in the free agents in a couple of spots here. And he performed in the top, I think, 20 or 25 overall last season as well, while he was splitting playtime.
Yeah, and yeah, I did see Rapala, but I was worried about, because, like you said, Dallas likes to split time with their flex supports, and I
Right.
didn't really want to risk the chance of him being like he has that 90-point game week last week, but this week he could see no map time and just not get any points, and I don't want to invest in that. But if you're
Yep.
if you're a betting man, you should probably you could take that risk, and it might pay off for you in the long run. But who should you? We just talked about who to look out for in your in your fantasy leagues. Who should you
Right.
avoid?
Well, other than the obvious ones that aren't necessarily so obvious to folks who follow Overwatch closely, but are like people that you should avoid. Obviously, Exy and the other folks like Funny Astro and Poco who just aren't playing, but are names that are still getting picked up in these leagues. Definitely try to avoid those unless you just want to take a long bet and you have the bench space for it. I'd also say Faraway is a question mark because you could hold on to him for hopes that he comes in. But I'm personally going to be selling those stocks per se because I think Monk's going to be their primary starter unless they come to a double flex. And in that case, he'll probably be back in the free agent pool. Another name comes to mind. This isn't necessarily a sell or get rid of, but it could be a smart trade option. Is if you have Bird Ring, I would consider trading him. And the reason why is because he's a really risky bet. He's going to pop off some weeks. He's not going to pop off other weeks. So I'd rather have some people who are more stable point scorers in personally. And I think the name Bird Ring is enough to get some really valuable trades off because people love the idea of having these players who are like iconic in the Overwatch league. So if you're playing in a league with some friends, consider trading Bird Ring out because everyone's going to want him and you can get some really good players in exchange for him.
As a Bird Ring owner and a Fielder owner.
Oh, that's fair. Rip.
I'm a Bird Ring owner, a Fielder owner, and a Krong owner. This week
Oof.
was rough for me. Still am in second place. All I'm saying.
That's fair. That's fair.
But for Bird Ring, I mean, he still was fine this week. He was a little bit inconsistent in his first game, but he ends up with 70 points in the end. Which it's like when a fantasy football player, for any analogies out there, scores like 12 points or 10 points. It's fine. It's
Right,
nothing to run home talking about. My thing with Bird Ring, his floor is higher than I think a lot of us think, and his ceiling is the greatest fantasy player
Oh yeah, definitely.
like in the league. Which, in my opinion, I'd rather have an average performance with very high ceiling than have like consistent like a slightly above average play, in my opinion. But that's just really my ideology, frankly. It's go big or go home.
So I'll say from my perspective, and I want to hear Sam because I heard he was saying a couple things there too. My perspective is if you got a consistent 70 plus scorer, they're great to have as your like go-tos. Then you do want to have a couple people who have really big pop-off potential, particularly with how they changed the scoring system this year. So this year, they take the average of the 3 best maps each game, and then they average those together. So they basically count up the best maps in your first one. So it really favors pop off potential. But what I'll say though is I would trade Bird Ring for someone like Crimzo in a heartbeat because I think that Crimzo is going to be consistently racking 95 plus each week, whereas Bird Ring is going to range from 60 to 130. And so that's where I'm coming at it from. Is you got these tiers of fantasy players. You got people who are going to consistently perform at the 60 to 80 range. You got people who are going to consistently perform at the 81 to 100 range, and then you got people who are just popping off. Those are obviously people that people aren't going to be willing to trade that much. But if you can get more of those people from like the 100, 90 to 110 range, if you can get one of those for Bird Ring, I'd personally make that trade.
Yeah, maybe. You see, I was depressed about Bird Ring and Krong and Fielder until you said that you wanted to trade him for Crimzo, and then I realized I also have Crimzo on my team, so I'm feeling pretty
Yeah,
good.
you're good. You're good. Sam, what were you thinking there? I saw
Yeah.
you jumping in.
Spam?
Sam.
Spam. Spam the chat.
The chat spamming drown.
The Bird Ring trade is interesting because Kevster proves he can play at a high level. Plus you have the Mirror who can flex off and is a 4600 DPS. So Mirror can play DPS. So I could see the trade for Bird Ring. It would kind of make sense for the Glads if they're going to interflex the DPS. So therefore you can say I can see the trade for Bird Ring if you're like, hey, high risk, high reward. I can get a high reward for him, but also high risk if he ever pops off. But I do
Right.
agree. You could trade him for like a king as a sports guy, like what's the word? Like these Anthony Davis for the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, the King's ransom, where they get a stud player, but you get like 5 or 6, 7 picks in return. So I could see that happening.
Right. I think one way of thinking about it is at the end of the day, you want a balanced roster. If you want to invest in Birdring for his pop up potential, he's definitely got it. I don't think Glads are out of the running as a top tier team, even though they didn't perform well last week. I still believe in the Glads. I'm still a big space believer, for example, shoe believer. They're going to put out consistent fantasy stats. But I think that when you're thinking about comps overall, I would trust some of the other DPS in the league to consistently put out 85 to 110 points more consistently than uh, my boy. So I think if we can, my boy, Birdring. So this is my hot take of the day. Feel free to do with it what you wish. My main takeaway here is if you have those big names from Overwatch Season 1 and 2 on your team that aren't necessarily performing as well as other lesser, like common house names for Overwatch, you can probably get some big value out of trades for them. And I'd consider doing that early in the season before those players are consistently performing lower than the people who are, I wouldn't trade them for Juby or anything like that, but the people who are like Juby, Crimzo, Iris, others who aren't necessarily, mainstays of the Overwatch League.
Yeah, I think also players like Fleta and Prophet definitely could fill Birdring's name there. But
Right.
I'm gonna give you I'm gonna spitball to you trade ideas. Would you take these?
All right.
Let's say Crimzo, not for Birdring for Choyobin.
That's an interesting question. First off, make sure that your team is balanced and you have ideally the two.
Yeah, we're saying that forget the rest of the team for a
Okay.
raw trade. For pretend you
Raw
have a
trade.
completely you have a 57-man roster. All right, you have plenty of room. You have your balance.
I personally only look to get Violet, Choi, and FD God from the Shock. And the reason why is because of how much their DPS flexes based off of the comps they're running and all the different strategies. They sometimes put in random people against teams that they know they're going to beat, right? I got screwed over at the end of Fantasy last season because I had Striker on my team. They just didn't play him against one of the weaker teams they were going against that week. And that's how I lost that season. So I think Choyobin, FD God, Violet are strong possibilities. I would consider taking that trade mostly because Troy has been proven as an off tank on one of the best teams, period, in the last few seasons. Even if they lost against Houston this week, we all know that game could have gone either way. It was a hair trigger. It went down to the absolute wire with that flank shadow that Chengdu popped off with. If he hadn't have got that, Shock would have won. And I think they're going to consistently perform pretty well this season. I just love to root against them because you'd love to see, how high they can fall.
Definitely.
All right. Next one. If you got offered Birdring, would you
Okay.
trade away Jonak?
I would not because I trust in Jonak's performance on the flex support role as a consistent output over Birdring. I think Birdring's, again, got that pop-off potential. So if I was looking for that on my team and I wanted to make a bet on him, I'd be open to it. But I'd rather place my bets in the rookies who aren't necessarily in the front of everyone's mind. So people like Valentine, I'm 37. You can look at Pelican, all these people who are coming in and seem to be performing really well. I want to put my bucks down, my scrim bucks down in favor of those folks.
So in a trade, would you, if you added in Jester to that, if you added in Smurf to that trade, would you take it? Like Smurf and Birdring for Jonak?
Probably not. I don't really tend to go for many main tanks other than I would say Mag and Gaga. Those are the two main tanks I believe in to consistently put up good fantasy numbers. I mean, maybe. I would like the way I think about my personal teams in fantasy is like an ecosystem. So again, it comes back to that balance. I know you said not to think about that, but for me, I want to make sure that I have at least 2 or 3 who are in that I'd say 80 to 100 point range average each week for each role, and then I'll consider taking bets on other people.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. By the
I
way,
don't want to hog the whole segment though, so if we want to transition.
Yeah, I was about
that's
to.
completely good.
I've been waiting to transition. I had some great segues already lined up, and then we kept talking. So we're gonna head right into our NA power rankings with Chipmunk giving some interesting takes. Chat. This is all him. This is nothing to do with me. This is all him. Blame him for these rankings. Blame him for these rankings.
you know what? I actually have a little Google Doc, right? And it's
Okay.
actually full of different reasons. Oh,
Okay.
I forgot. I also wrote a poem for Jeff Kaplan. We may read that at the end as a little surprise.
Oh my
Sounds
goodness.
fantastic.
Okay, so
Yeah,
first we have at our 12th rank for.
Also, wait.
What?
It's my NA power rankings.
Yeah, and first you're gonna say it. What do you have at your 12th rank?
Oh, all right. At my 12th rank, I have Vancouver for one reason and one reason only. They were bad last season. They added Linkser. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna be good enough. Linkser cannot hard carry this team. We've seen it for when he was on the Outlaws. So, and even then, he had weapons on the Outlaws. I mean, now, oof, he has nothing.
Mentor.
Like the fact that first of all, the best player last season was KSA, and they gave him away.
KSF. Wait, what?
No.
KSA?
KSA.
Wait. Oh, right. No, he wasn't. Shockwave
Yeah,
was.
he was. Oh, Shockwave. My bad.
Yeah, Shockwave with no hands.
Yeah,
up.
my bad. Shockwave, but the KSA was a mediocre off tank. He wasn't bad, in my opinion. But either way, they gave them both away, and they bring in Linkser. It's just like, okay, you give away the 2 best players on your team, and you get one of them back. You're effectively just losing a player. This team was already Garbo last year. I don't expect anything more out of the squad. In fact, I think the match against Paris is at least going to be a 3-1. I don't even think they're close.
Imagine if they kept the runaway roster on Vancouver, man.
What even happened to them? I forgot.
It was Luminosity, I think, that they just were not a good like caretaker of the team. I think that's what was the whole situation with them dropping the roster, because they all became upset with them.
Crazy human beings.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We got to we go from one of the most dominant Overwatch teams ever to the 12th place team.
I was actually talking
the
this with my
West.
dad today too. Like me and my dad were just like, oh my, because my dad actually is a really chill dude. He loves to watch Overwatch. But past that, I think there's not much more to say about the. Oh yeah, there's not a team there. So let's move on.
The
You know, there's
11th
not a.
ranked.
Yeah, so the 12th ranked team. I don't think there's anyone filling the spot. Let's move on to the 11th ranked team, which will be for me, the Paris Eternal. And yeah, chat, I know it's KSAA, but I'm just calling them KSA. Paris Eternal here. Listen, if any of you guys watched the Steel Series Cup, they looked okay, you know? Dawn and Khan both looked very strong. Dawn had some big shatters, and Khan was a fairly solid support. But I feel like when I say solid, I mean a slightly above average, and 2 slightly above average players just aren't going to help this squad much. I feel like Onigod is not a pop-off. We saw that when Dallas lost to the Vancouver Titans 3-0 last season. Onigod is not quite the pop-off, choice. So I just feel like Paris, they have potential. Give them a year, and I legit think they will be the first ever EU roster to actually work.
Okay,
I will say, I
could
think
see that.
there's also something to be said for Naga on Farah and those
Oh yeah, Naga. I forgot about
projectile
that.
flyers. The thing to take into account here is it's going to be very map dependent, right? You can't run Farah on every map, but when
Can't
you
run
can,
right
I
on every
think
map.
right.
True.
I think it just comes down to the rest of the team's not solid around them, but I think they have potential to take a few maps off of some big teams at least.
Yeah, and I definitely remember watching Naga in, I think it was the Gauntlet last season. For I forget what team he was on, but he was on that Echo role for that team, and he was just popping off and just
Yep.
doing so much for his contenders team. And I'm really excited to see him in the Overwatch League, and hopefully as well we get to see Suna redemption arc this season, because no,
We'll see.
he was just not good last year on Vancouver.
All right. Well, I think we are ready to move on to our next team. Drum roll, please. It will be. I'm so sad because they had them so much higher, during Steel Series, but the Boston Uprising at number 10. And I'm so sad to say this because you know what? They would have been probably number 7 for me if they had Soon. They looked so good during the Steel Series Cup. Like, really freaking good. Soon was popping off. I Am 37 looks great. I feel like this squad really had potential, but I'm sorry, Soon. Whenever, and I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say whenever, and they create an Overwatch League Hall of Fame, this guy's first ballot, You cannot underestimate the loss that Soon is. He's a talent really only matched by so many people. I really loved Boston going into this, and I really didn't want to rank them 10. But the teams ahead of them, you know what? I think they could go ahead of Rain.
You think that? Do you
Oh.
want me to switch it? We can pull up Rain and we'll switch it.
Yep, switch it. Rain or number 10 for me. Rain or number 10 for me.
Just get juicy, boys.
The production
I'm just
is
gonna say
top notch.
No, thank you.
the hashtag blame chip. I'm with it.
No!
We'll see how it goes. I personally think Boston, Atlanta got more talent than you're giving them, but we'll see how it goes here.
All right.
I feel
Here's-
like Atlanta's a rush one trick team, and we saw that against
Yes!
Mayhem. They
I mean,
could not deal with the dive of Florida when they were forced to play Winston comps. It was just not good, and they definitely looked better against Toronto, but they still lost to Toronto Defiant. And I know people were kind of low on them at the beginning of the season. I don't know why. I was really high on that roster with a lot of good players on it from the fusion of last year, and people were ranking them towards the bottom. But I don't. Kai is very good, but he's not getting the space that he needs to work, and I think that's the big problem with this Atlanta Reign roster.
It's my same thing that I have with Vancouver. One man cannot carry a roster. And I understand there is some other weapons here. That's why it's not the Vancouver Titans. But let's go over the roster. Massa, regressing. Gator, bad. Pretty much always has been. Hot take. Edison.
Hey, you gotta
okay.
respect the council OGs in a Gator. You gotta respect them.
Gator.
You gotta respect
Gator freaking creating jokes. I pay no respect to Gator.
the pole fire strike combo last year.
That
chef's
had
kiss.
nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with the Orisa.
Coordination is what we call it. But yeah, I'd agree there.
Edison came in with way higher expectations and he did not end up performing to those levels. Hawk is okay, but will never be elite. Kai is easily the best player on this team and is looking to be their hard carry. Iris came out of nowhere, performed for a little bit, but then everyone realized he's not really performing that well. Pelicans, good. They cannot have their DPS core carrying this team. We've seen it before, and it's just not going to happen again. It's Dallas Fuel. Last season, Dallas Fuel had Decay and Doha, which looks almost that. It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Pelican is Doha, Kai
Yep.
is Decay. How did that turn out? Not well. And
Yeah.
I'm not talking about after Decay. During Decay, it didn't turn out well. Dallas wasn't winning games. That's why this Reign team, I feel like they're going to end up exactly where Dallas was in the APAC region, around number 10. I'm sorry. But Boston Uprising, you know what? I am 37, and Valentine
don't forget
are good.
they just promoted Gabe Bulsey to the main roster.
I don't
Yep.
care about. I legitimately don't care about that guy.
What? Wait.
I'm joking with you.
I was about to say you're gonna disrespect the second most hyped out off tank prospect coming out.
Nah,
of
Color
Contenders.
Hex is gonna replace him.
The 3,700 player now. Holy crap!
Well, Gabe, we'll see. Yeah, I mean that's a tank replacement though. But yes, Punk, I think is up there. Off tanks, in my opinion, very underrated. Stand 1 underrated. Gabe Olsey coming into the league, high hopes. Fusion's absolute garbage.
Whoa! You cannot disrespect Minecraft Steve. Stop it! You cannot disrespect Minecraft Steve right now.
Minecraft Steve, oh.
Big facts.
But I mean, you have Faith, Young Balling. This team has potential. Once again, though, still number 9. We can't exactly say, oh my gosh, look at this chip, put them at number 9. They're going to be godly. They're going to win the No. I'm going to stop you right there because they're not going to win the Overwatch League championships.
Somebody clip it. Continue on to your number 8 ranking.
They win. Chipmunk says, nope, they're not going to win. They win. They win the Owl this year.
I mean, it would take some crazy pickups. This team is not going to win. I'm going to say this now. Clip this part. This team currently, as of 4/22/2021 at 9:14 p.m. Central Time, is not going to win the championship.
I mean,
But they will take down, prediction once again, they will take down the Gladiators in the first round.
Hey. That's a later segment. You're getting too ahead of yourself, Chipmunk. You're going into your eighth ranked person now.
Clip
He's
it.
pulling a sideshow.
Clip it. No, I'm just saying in the playoffs, in the past the Cup playoffs time, this team will beat the Gladiators. I have a feeling, I just have a feeling.
Okay.
Either way, next team up is the Toronto Somewhat Defiant.
Now, I have a lot of problems with this. How you put a 2-0 team at 8, Chipmunk?
Who'd they play?
Hey,
Who'd they play?
Vancouver and Atlanta, and they looked
So-
very
They
solid.
played the 2019 Dallas Fuel and an Empty Shadow.
Yeah, fair enough. But still, they looked incredible. Tell me they did not look very good on their roll. Nice. There was a lot of question marks coming out with Nice.
Great. Their team is great, but they're just not at the same level as the teams after this.
Oh my god, I'm pulling up IBM Watson, and we're gonna look at Hisu's rank from last year. We're gonna
number 10. He was number 10.
Yeah, he was number 10. And you're gonna, you know what? And then
looks at rest of rankings.
No, I'm too lazy to find it because I don't have it already pulled up. But as I feel like we were talking about earlier with Michelle, he was looking really good. Seoul was just kind of ridiculous last year for not running him. That cost them a lot of games in the regular season, I feel like.
As a 2U owner, I'm very happy.
I mean, fair enough, but I feel like they should have definitely played him last year. He's a very above average off tank for the Overwatch League.
Yep.
And I feel like that's a major reason why we saw Seoul underperform in the regular season last year. Because they were trying to run Marvel and Gesture at the same time.
Listen, the thing with Toronto is they were looking mid-table in, right? I feel like they definitely have talent, but it's stuff like Michelle. Michelle, is anyone going to say Michelle is a top 5 off tank in the league?
No, probably top
Exactly.
10.
Exactly. But top 10 doesn't win you games, does it? You know?
It just did though.
They won against an empty Shadow and the 2019 Dallas Fuel.
What's your number 7?
All right.
This is gonna piss people off. 100%.
Man, I keep looking at this Toronto team. And you know what?
What's the 7?
Say
What's
it.
the 7?
Say it.
And Michelle and Lastro and Hisu and Nice and Sato, they're looking really good.
Say it, Chipmunk. Say it so everyone could yell at you in chat. Say it right now.
I switched Toronto and London.
You switched them. Oh, okay. I was about to say, good on you. Good on you, Buckaroo.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was tired. I was sugar high. London Spitfire gonna win the league. No, but I am very high on this team. Looking over the roster of Toronto, they're probably on paper better, but the eye test has been passed for me with London during that Steel Series Cup. They looked so good. I feel like they can translate to the OWL, and I think they will do it well. Hybrid can definitely hold the spot for Sparker. Shax is a god. Blase can play the Doom Fist. Kelix is...
You sure he's not gonna play McCree?
Please no. Kelix and Ripa, you know what? They proved themselves in British Hurricane, and I have a feeling Kelix can come back and play well. Ripa, obviously, good rookie talent, but I'm looking at Mulfig here. Yeah. Mulfig is going to be the star of this lineup, and when Mulfig is the start of this lineup on a team with Shax and Sparker and Hybrid and Hottie on it, you can tell it's going to be a really good team. I'm going to say it right now. Toronto is not much that far ahead of London right now for me, but they're just enough for me to switch the rosters. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to throw out something. Is London the equivalent, roughly, of Paris last year? They got Sparker coming in late when he comes of age. I think they're going to really pop off once they get him, but they still have some good talent right now with Shax and Molfig and all the other folks they got going for them.
Exactly!
I just don't think they're going to perform as well as said Paris team did, because that was just incredible what they did coming in.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's always going to be a team, though. There's always going to be a team. There's always going to be a team like that.
Right.
Every NFL season we go into, we always have a surprise team. You know, every OWL season we go into, there's always a surprise team. Tell me last year. Well, no, was it last year or 2 years ago? No, 2 years ago. Or no, it was last year. Oh man, it's been a long time. I'm sorry. But did you expect the budget Valiant to do as well as they did?
I mean, no, but I felt they were going to do a lot better than people were giving them credit for.
Bing. That's exactly what I'm saying about London here.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, Quad.
I mean, we're just.
What team is that, Quad? What team is that? I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's a team with green and yellow as their colors, Quad.
Yeah, it's the Beijing Bears.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a 5th China team.
Well, that's technically what they are right now. That's what it feels like. They should have probably rebranded it the Beijing Bears for this year. But going into your 6th rank here.
Yeah, this one. Yeah. Okay. I think they still have potential, but I'm gonna sound crazy if I want to switch LA the Gladiators with London. So, with Toronto. So, I mean, is that insane to say?
No.
I think you gotta have Glads in at least the top 6. I would put them in the top 5, 4.
You're insane. Los Angeles Gladiators. Okay. You know what? They came in, they saw and they fell awfully.
They fell flat on their
They
face.
Listen, people are like, oh, they're going against good teams. You know, it's going to be a tough matchup, especially when you have the best free agency of the season, as well as go against a Dallas Fuel team without a hit scan.
They still lost.
And they still lost.
Space is underwhelming. I'm gonna say it. Space has regressed. I'm gonna say it.
Yep.
I think he's still going to perform well. I think it was a rough week. I'm going to chalk it up to that. You guys chalk it up to whatever you think.
I think
I
Space
don't
has
think it's a
regressed.
rough
I
week.
don't think he's a top off tank anymore in this league. That's
I think
my take.
we can say the same about Moth.
Hey, no, you cannot say that about Moth right now.
Sure, they're not starting Moth.
Yeah.
Which, you know what, Deepay, whoa!
Nope.
When I was starting to think that he actually was doing something right, he's like, nah, skewed.
No, they're gonna
Get it.
They're gonna turn it all around after their mid-season coach signing of Joker's Ransom, and they're gonna be all good.
No, they're mid-sitting. Yo, hold on a sec. It's gonna be like instead of the Shanghai Dragons, they're gonna sign Reinforce, you know.
Reinforced Larson.
But then when they get to the playoffs, he's gonna get replaced by Snello, as so he prophesied.
Snello.
The one problem I have was the mirror on off tank, where Space's Zarya is not that bad. But why do you put your off tank out for a DPS player to play that?
Right.
Like, I get last year with Washington with Decay, because Decay is insane. But, like, if Space is your off tank and he is, say, your best player for last year going to this year, you'd say he's 1A, 1B. Why do you pull him? You need to solidify your tank line, because your main tank's your biggest question mark when it comes to this team with Muse. And that's what it is. Like, he's got to have chemistry with that off tank, and if you keep swapping them out, there's no chemistry, and there's no chemistry in your tank role, your team's just going to fall. So I question that.
I definitely liked Muse's play, especially on that Winston, what we saw against the Shock. He was just, I think he was doing a lot better than Super was when he was playing that Winston role. But, I mean, it's Super. He's you can say he's a Ryan one trick. He's still very good at the other main tanks as well. But
my question is, why does he, now that I'm seeing this and remembering this, and I see currently in the people who are alive, both Super and XQCOW are alive. Now I see they both have. Why does Super have Winston as his icon? It just doesn't make sense. He can't play Winston for the life of him.
I mean, he can play Winston better than Gator. That's all he needs to do.
Savage. Who's your number 5, Chip?
All right, my number 5. I think. No, it's not less hot takes from here on.
It's kind of a hot take.
No, I'm saying that is no. There's no stopping in the hot takes from here on out. Florida. I feel like a lot of people have Florida as their number 5 teams. I think Florida, they did not quite prove themselves here. The 2 teams that they beat were okay. You know, they're mid-table. OG though, the one person that we were worried about with this squad performed and well. You know,
Did he?
Yes,
I
he
think
did.
he looked okay. He looked all right on that Reinhardt. He's not
and on
setting
the Winston.
He looked great on the Winston. OG
but that's
has
all that matters
always
right now.
been good at that Winston. It's the real question is that's gonna need to get them over this hump that they're currently at. Is if OG can stop feeding on Ryan.
I like NSB's comments in the chat. Yeah. You can tell the man obviously has a big brain.
Mayhem bad.
You
know what? We could just see like 10-second shatters out of OG, you know?
I mean, we saw in their matchup against Atlanta. Whenever they were running that rush mirror against Atlanta was running them. It just really the real question about Florida is, can Kuki work his magic on OG and figure out why he feeds so much on Reinhardt? And if they can figure that out, I think they can be a contender to win the entire league this year. They have so much talent on this roster.
Florida is going to be absolutely tested They have a bye week this week, but on April 30th, they'll be going against the Shock. So that's when we're really gonna see what is this team made of, because we really haven't. We saw them go against a team which is basically a rush specialist team, the equivalent of the Chengdu Hunters, where if they're putting a ball meta, they're gonna crush it. Otherwise, they're kind of stuck. But I feel like Florida still has a lot of potential, still has a lot to show, and feel a lot better than Gladiators right now.
Well, the other thing to consider too is I think about Fusion last year, and Sato was not performing as well as he could have been at the beginning of the season, but he did better throughout because his supports really pumped resources
the
into him.
supports.
And these supports are fire. You got Gangnam Jin and Slime. Those two will provide him with the resources he needs to stay up.
And Yaki.
If he feeds, he can play pretty aggressive, but it's still going to be tough.
Yaki's just incredible, and that 2K pulse bomb on Ilios against Atlanta.
It was 3K.
It was a 3K. Well, either way, it won. I feel like that changed the entire series for them and won them that series in the end.
All right, now you're just saying what Sideshow was saying.
Hey, I can't. Hey, don't. Hey, I can steal Sideshow's takes if Matt Morello can steal everyone else's takes as well.
All I can
Mr.
say
X.
is that some of the Rhine plays were swinging for the fences, Barry Bonds style.
What? Okay, buddy. Okay,
Right.
buddy. Okay,
Sorry.
let's just
Number 4.
Yeah.
Number 4. Oh man, this take is hotter than a tamale. All right.
You mean hotter than a pepper?
Things are getting
Shut
too
up.
spicy for the pepper.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's
Things
bad.
are, we've just ascended past the Scoville scale with this take. I say we, but I should be saying me. The one, the only, the maybe not championship contenders.
They're definitely championship contenders.
No, they definitely are, but they're much less of championship contenders than they were last season. The San Francisco Shock.
All right, let me just say this. When it comes to the Shock, let Smurf play Winston, let Super play Genji, you're good.
Thanks.
Super Genji. True. I mean, Super's not that good as a player, so just put him on Genji. No, I'm joking. He's a great Rhine. He's a great hog.
So we put Super on the Genji, Striker on Tracer.
No, we put Glister on Tracer.
No, we put
We put
Violet on
Glister on
McCree.
Tracer.
We put Violet on McCree.
Glister on Tracer.
Yeah.
All right. But with San Francisco Shock, here's the thing. As is currently, they are the exact same thing as the Dallas Fuel. Literally. They've played the same teams and they've had the same outputs. They have the same differential. The only difference is that San Francisco Shock has all the damage dealing that they want. Well, Dallas Fuel doesn't even have a hit scan, and they're doing the same thing as the Shock.
Sparkle's Genji's a thing.
Sparkle Genji is a thing, but we're talking about hit scan here. How San Francisco Shock has up to 3 hit scan. They have flex DPS out the wazoo. They have some of the best tanks in the league. And they have the probably best support line in the league.
So I think you got Shock as basically that jerk like sibling who's playing Monopoly with you and already bought up Boardwalk and all the later territories there. So they've got a lot coming in, and they can continue to capitalize on that. I think they're going to farm the lower tier teams, but I do think that because they're the 2-time reigning champs, that they are going to be a team that people are intentionally practicing strats to beat.
Yeah.
And grinding, working really hard. You could have a lot of close games against them where you didn't have those last season. So while it is a hot take to put them at 4, I do think there are teams that are going to do better than them this year overall.
And this team will not be moved.
And I'm going to say
I'm very sturdy on this pick, mainly because of the fact that regression is a thing. Teams regress no matter what. And frankly, the free agent signings,
I'm gonna say
even
it.
though some people say they're fine, I agree. They're good. Honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's
Chip, let me say it. Let me say it.
what are you gonna say, Joker?
The loss of Ons was not equal to the pickups.
Yes, exactly.
Ons was incredible.
the best hit scan in the league last season.
Okay.
No question about it.
I need to say something.
Yeah, Big Sam. Big Sam is funny. He doesn't talk a lot, but when he talks, it's important.
I may catch flack for this, and I like both players. I think Ons had a better season than Pine had with New York Excel.
Oh my god!
Oh, that's hard.
I mean, you can't say that because Pine left like for two stages during his time with New York in that season 1, but he was incredible. But
Not only that, but Pine had 2 of the most iconic plays.
Yeah.
Three of the most iconic plays in OWL history, which is gonna leave a mark that will never leave the game.
And
I'm sorry, but Ons will be nowhere as legendary as Pine. He could never, even if he played for 10 years, he will never be as legendary as Pine.
I feel like the loss of Ons, that if you go back and watch any of the VODs last year in the playoffs or later in the season when he was just a monster, you see every fight he's getting 1 or 2 picks before the fight starts, and that was the reason why Shock was winning games. And without that prowess of Hitscan, I don't think they're gonna have the same amount of successes they had last year or the year before with that incredible Goats team and the Zarya player that I won't talk about until things come out.
All right, so chat. Use your deductive reasoning. There are 3 teams left.
Ooh, wait.
Those teams are Houston, Dallas, and Washington.
Wait.
Wait,
We have a question from the chat.
Oh, okay.
Will the FD God aggro work for the Shock?
Oh, of course it will.
Hmm?
I'll tell you why. This team has always been a very aggressive team. We're running dive. We're running dive right now. We're nanoing Winston's. Either we're nanoing Winston's or we're nanoing a man who has the lowest amount of testosterone like possible for an 18-year-old, but yet plays like he is the most massive genital area in the league. You know, so I'm just not wanting to get freaking kicked off the CGL teams. This is an official thing. The freaking yeah. I feel like FD God. His name says it all. He's just simply a god. I honestly think that if I had to choose between FD God or Moth here, we're seeing Moth right now on the Gladiators. Even on the starts that he did get, there has to be a reason that he's not getting started.
But the thing is with FD, I feel like Moth's playstyle just worked for the Shock. He wasn't needing resources. He was the perfect main support for those 2 teams, and I don't feel like with.
No, I think the aggro will work. Do I think it'll help the team not as much? No, of course not.
Yeah.
Here's my take on it. FD got incredible player, incredible aggressive Lucio. However, I want to talk about one clip in particular. Everyone saw the clip of where he tried to 1v1 Happy in the window of Anubis up top, right? The thing with FD God playing that aggressive is he has to be able to take those duels. He's not going to be able to take it against people like Happy, people like some of these other DPS all-stars in the league. Will it work against like poorer teams? Yes. Will it work against these upper level teams like apparently the Outlaws this season? And I would say, some of the other people we got in the top 6 or 7 rankings, I don't think so, because those DPS players will punish that, because he was able to get away with it on Paris because they were playing a completely different play style. But with people like Happy shutting them down, I think it's going to be tough.
Happy is great. Happy will probably be one of the better Hanzo players this season. He will not be better than Dante this season. The performance that he had against the San Francisco Shock is just simply not sustainable. He can't do that every week.
I mean, he was kind of doing it a lot for Charge last year, and I don't think many people saw that, and I think that's why a lot of people are surprised on how well he did.
No, and he popped off, but he's not going to get 2 5Ks every time he plays.
Fair enough, but I think people are massively underrating Happy because they didn't watch 8-Pack last year.
Yeah, play. Yeah,
agreed.
exactly.
Agreed. I agree with that.
And we'll talk more about him when we get to them. But let's get into our number 3 ranking here in Chipmunk.
All right, so Jose, before we throw it up on the screen, I want chat put like 1 and then Houston or whatever team, and then 2 other team, 3 other team. Give what you think my rankings will be.
They're not gonna.
Someone's gonna say Dallas at the top. All right,
No.
NSB. Let's see.
Come on, NSB. You're the only one that's doing
8-pack watchers have 6-packs.
No facts.
Well, no,
I have a 6-pack of beer.
Well, no, they have 8-packs.
I have an 8-pack of beer.
Let it sink in.
But oh my god, he's figured it out.
He's cracked the code.
Let's get into it.
All right. Well, Dallas is number 3. All right.
And Jane, we trust.
And
Jane's
Jane, we
not,
trust.
and he's not even a part of the roster. He's a content creator for them. And
listen, NSP, you're just out of your mind. All right. No, I really am not discrediting you like that. But our takes are just very different. You're a very conservative picker, but I go with my gut. Which often is either very small or very large, depending on the day. So Dallas, literally the same thing as San Francisco, like I just talked about. But they did it without a hit scan.
And well, let's talk about that. Who do you think they're gonna pick up from?
I don't know. I just want a hit scan.
See, my thing was everyone. Okay, I'm gonna just say this right now because a lot of people were trying to say Nene is going to be the pickup for them, and that's just not going to happen.
Why would that make sense?
It doesn't even make sense. But first of all, Nene has basically quit Overwatch. He's not played since playoffs. He's quit. He got so mentally boomed from the playoffs, he quit, and that's what I've seen looking in Nene's fan Discord. He's just done with Overwatch. And I feel like, and especially with how old he was getting, he was 24. And that's just ancient in esports terms, I feel.
Pine. We pick up Pine.
Pine would be, Pine was...
I think it'd be possible.
It's possible he wanted to get back into Overwatch, but he has not played competitively in a year, 2 years. So I don't think he's gonna. I feel like it's got to be like the 2 people that NSB said, Innovate or Merit, or because they said they're picking up 2. So and then probably if they just want someone, I feel like Sigma could be another person as well.
Yo, hold on a sec.
Okay.
I think we could pick up Innovate and Pine. I think it'd be fun.
Sam wants to talk. Sam wants to talk.
All right, sorry.
I'm gonna throw this out there. The issue gets corrected. Would they sign soon and go back to the soon Sparkle was on Paris last year, and it worked?
I think Soon put out a tweet that he's done with Overwatch. I think
he joined T1 Valorant. He joined T1 Valorant.
He went to Valorant. But another ex-NYXL player who put out a tweet the other day after...
It makes me cringe.
Libero. I
don't like it.
Libero has a very decent McCree, and he's played it before in Owl.
We were looking for a hit scan player, not a McCree player. We need it to be well-rounded, and I'm just cringing over the fact of us having Libero as a main hit scan. I mean,
yeah, but
we already have 2 Genji players.
Fair enough. But let's get into 2 because we're kind of running along on these segments here. So let's
Washington. They're not proven, but they're gonna be against Dallas this week.
The game to
because
watch.
it is the game to watch.
All right.
Yeah, they're just. I feel like
Game to watch.
I'm not doing this off of Scrimbucks. I'm doing this off of the fact that they have a really solid roster this season. Obviously, according to my rankings, more solid than the Shock. And I feel like they could probably win. This right here in my power rankings thing. Quick input so we can keep it moving.
And then it's obvious what the last one is. Say it.
It's the Houston friggin' Outlaws. And to be fair, any argument that anyone gives that this team is not number one will be countered by the fact that they beat the number 3 and 4 team in this ranking.
Yeah, fair enough. Without
And the only other, the number 2 team is a team that's completely unproven. And they could easily be number 1, but Mr. Scrimbucks in chat, aka NSB United, I almost said NBC, NSB United, I invested in Houston, said that he's a Scrimbucks guy. Listen, Scrimbucks nowadays, we're looking at these teams, apparently Scrimbucks are worth about as much as Monopoly money. All right?
Hey, whoa. I'm still high on the NYXL due to Scrimbucks.
I'm not high on them due to Scrimbucks. I'm high on them because their roster looks good.
Yeah.
And because the open scrim against the Charge, they popped off of that. And they played pretty much their whole DPS rotation.
Exactly. The thing about
we'll talk about New York when we get to APAC.
Yeah.
But
Houston Outlaws.
So Sam can talk about APAC.
Yeah. Let's go to APAC, but Houston, the number 1 team, and until Washington proves me otherwise by beating Dallas by at least 3-1, which I don't have them doing, then they will stay at number 2.
All right, so APAC now. Sam, you have the floor.
All right.
For me, like that's a dark horse.
Okay. But anyway, we're gonna.
Oh, Joker, you got no audio.
Yeah, I know. I just realized that. Give me a second. Just keep talking before I can
talk. Big Sam, talk.
All right.
Just talk. Say your first rank, and I'll get it onto it when I have audio.
Okay, so we're gonna do APAC. We're gonna go 8-1. We're gonna start in 8th, which is last place. It's the Valiant for obvious reasons. We're not gonna get into detail. We know the management, team issues, dropping players, last place. Don't have to say much.
Pooping into pants.
Yeah, pretty much.
What he said. Number 7, I have the Charge because it's hard when you lose Shu and Happy and Nero. So your DPS took a hit, even though Eileen's good. And Krong,
he didn't even play. They didn't even play Eileen week 1. Just think about that. That's just ridiculous. He was
their coaching. This team could be ahead of.
Oh, I know they could be very high in this ranking if their coaching was good. I don't.
Yes.
Or they're. It's just ridiculous. With Eileen sitting on the bench, he was so good for them. That the Happy Eileen duo last year for Charge was incredible. That's why they were number 2 in APAC in the regular season. They were incredible. Yeah, and like NSB said, Choi Se-wan was goated in that first matchup of the season against Shanghai. He was just doing so much for that roster. But then we saw them against, what was it, Fusion, right? It was their second match. And he just got no value.
Yeah. So this next one's going to be a hot take because it's hard because it's one of those.
Sam. I'm going to yell at you, Sam, when you say it.
Hold a sec. Wait. Just before you say this, I still have faith in the Charge if they can get their coaching staff right.
Mm-hmm.
I think McKaylee did not perform the way I thought he would from what I saw in NEXT. who he was just
He
absolutely
got
destroying.
dumpstered by Guangbong in the open scrim
Yeah,
against
yeah, that
NYXL.
and I didn't see that. Maybe that's why I had him pretty high.
He
But
got dumpstered. He
yeah,
looked lost. And he
but
did look lost again in the in those
Yep.
first two matchups as well. I
Yeah,
think you
which
just need to
was
put
sad.
Eileen in.
because he has potential. Like he really
Definitely.
does. Like what we
On
saw
like
from him
one
in
hero, Ash,
Yeah, exactly. And
I mean, we saw
and they just
NEX.
have to dive him out,
Yeah.
and then he's dead.
I mean, NEXT's like McKaylee was destroying Dallas.
yeah, but
Like
I don't know.
that's big, but if you're not performing in the actual league, then screw the Scrimbucks, you know. Also, their main tank situation is brutal right now.
Ugh.
If they fix that, I legit think they could be a serious contender. Eileen Choicewan is the optimal combo. Although I think if Hitscan meta comes back, give McKaylee another chance.
And
Yeah,
okay, now
but yeah,
now,
you
now,
can move on.
Now say it, Sam, so I can yell at you.
I put New York at number 6.
Oh my god, this is just ridiculous.
And the reason being is because at the end of the day, they always choke.
Okay.
And it's just, sooner or later, they're going to break your heart. And you're going to be like, why you should be more talented.
Okay, this team.
Does my ranking is my ranking less hot take than Sam's?
Okay, now let me say this. This team is completely different from last year's squad. It's just completely different. And I have them finishing top 3 in APAC by the end of this season. But with that DPS lineup of Flora, Feather, Guangbong, and Ivy, that's a top DPS lineup in the entire league. Guangbong
I agree
looks
with you there.
ridiculous on that long range hit scan. Flora, Sombra, incredible. Feather, great. Ivy is just that flex god that you need. That is kind of just like Libero was for NYXL. Can play anything that they need him to play and can get the job done.
I still have them in my top 3, but the key word is that they could be a top DPS line in the league. Not that they will.
No, they definitely will. They're just
oh, you know what? They definitely could. But at some point, these players are still unproven.
Yeah.
But I still have them at number 3. But we've seen Scrimbucks thrown around all this offseason. Most of them haven't been true. These days you need to actually say, see a team play in the Overwatch League to even have like any idea of how they're going to turn out. Like Houston Outlaws, no one thought that they were going to be top 3 team. I mean, only Outlaws fans thought that.
Outlaws fans are crazy anyway.
I mean, yeah, but they're not as crazy as Dallas fans. You should have met. By the way, join the Dallas Fuel Discord and join in there on Watch Party game days because it's freaking hype. We're all like slapping our, "Let's go Dallas, let's go!" Legitimately the entire freaking.
Okay, Chip, you're muted. Okay, Sam. Next pick.
I have the spark. The spark.
You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous. I'm sorry. Okay. You're gonna. Okay. You're ridiculous, Sam. But keep going.
Okay, because number 1, Gouchway is an insane main tank on the Winston. Godsby was insane DPS, Architect, and Flex Off. Like, you know what you're getting with those. It's just like I said, I want to see them play. I want to see how they're going to interact with each other, intertwine. Let's see how they do opening up this weekend.
I completely agree with you. This team on paper is incredible, but I don't like their coaching staff. I've never have. They don't know how to.
No.
Chip, you're unmuted again. But I don't like their coaching staff. I don't think they can integrate players well. We saw that last year with oh my god, who were the Chinese support players that they were trying to incorporate onto that team last year that they could never do because they were just too bad at doing that. Who was it? What it was? Okay,
Chris, no,
it was Coldest and Mika.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they could not integrate them when they were IDK is a very good stable Lucio, but that support lineup would have been so much better with I think it was Coldest. Yeah, it was Coldest, and they couldn't just integrate him to the lineup, and they had to play Bebe, and that just
Baby.
didn't. I feel like that was just a downgrade, because I feel like Coldest is a very hyped up hit flex support player, and it just could never get him into the lineup.
I agree with what NSB is saying in the chat.
Yeah.
Sam, who you got it for?
I got the Soul Dynasty. This
This
team has a ton of hype. They
I
have a
need
ton of
like
hype.
some blood. I need a blood transplant because I'm freaking dying over here. I'm losing consciousness. I have a third degree burn from these flaming hot takes.
I'd put them at 5, man. It's just, it's just, they got rid of Toby, man, for Animo, and Animo is just washed. This is coming from an NYXL fan. He's washed, and you pick him up over Toby, who was looking incredible on the Fusion.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I'll also just add that you've seen what he had as these rankings before we got here today, Chip. So no need to be that astounded.
You saw these
I
rankings
think
in our
Soul
chat.
at 4 makes sense.
I didn't really look at them. I wanted to have live
my
on the
God.
spot reaction, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go into this, blind. But NSB, you're saying not too far off.
It's
I
not
understand that.
They should be 5. Honestly, they should be 5.
They should be 5 or 6 around that range. But
Mhm.
every rank matters so much more than it does in NA in APAC because there's just less spots.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so if you move up down one rank, it's a huge thing. Much bigger than it is in NA, you have 4 added ranks in NA. So in my opinion, I just still think it doesn't look that hot when you first look at it, but when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, no.
Okay.
I think if Guangzhou had
Anyway.
good coaching, they'd be ahead of all of these teams. But right now, their coaching is way off.
Eh.
All right, number 3. I got the defending champs of APAC, the Dragons.
I completely agree with this right now. After seeing them lose, this is where I had them in my power rankings. I just after just an awful loss to Chengdu, and then not looking as strong as they looked, as they should have looked against the Charge. This is I completely agree with this, Sam.
Yes. Again, it goes back to the main tank situation. I mean, I trust Fleta and Lip. I trust the support line, but it's just that main tank without Fearless. Until it gels, it's one of those, you're on the cusp.
I mean, I'm fine with this pick. Joker, though, you said that New York was in your top 3.
Top 3 by the end of the year, because I don't think one of the I feel like one of these teams is just gonna fall off.
You see, yeah, I feel like Shanghai
Top 3, top
Yeah.
4 for an NYXL.
Yeah, they're fine. They definitely regress. Fate has regressed, honestly. It's not only a downgrade; it's a regressing downgrade.
And then there were two undefeated teams that do play each other this week, and I will get into that later on. But at number 2, I went back and forth. I debated. I slept on it.
No, no.
And I'm going with Chengdu number 2.
No.
They can throw you multiple looks, and it's just, can they do it consistently week in, week out? Did they catch the Dragons off guard? Maybe. Were they expecting the picks? I don't know. Especially with the ball player was just insane coming from the main tank position. So there's number
Gaga.
2. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, I just said Gaga. Just is putting in work for Chengdu.
Yes. And then
I actually, man,
go ahead.
Power
Go ahead.
rankings on I apparently can't because power rankings are so stupid on the Overwatch League website. Like you open up the stats folder, you click on it, and then it immediately just goes to all player stats instead of power rankings. So you have to like double click really fast.
The short
Yeah, it's
version
just
is there.
impossible.
A lot of Chengdu hunters are in the top rankings right
Yeah,
now,
they're
according to
looking
IBM
great.
Watson,
Oh my
for
goodness.
winning team fights and winning games.
Exactly. Which is really, winning fights and winning games is what matters in the league. And in my opinion, no matter how much flashy talent you have on this Philly roster, when you have 4 people in the top 10 for winning team fights, including one of them who is number 2, which is Gaga, having the most eliminations and claw eliminations amongst ball players in the first week, I feel like Chengdu, they're going to get overshadowed because people are going to remember what they used to be.
Yeah,
But this is a new team.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then finish it off, Sam, so we can get into our predictions for our big matches of the week.
Yeah, I have Fusion number 1 because they look good, undefeated. You have a good, solid off tanks. Your support line's insane. And in DPS, you have a guy that hard carried the Vancouver Titans last year, which is Anthem, and you have a MVP caliber player right beside him in Corpe. So, and then you have Rascal who can come in and flex off. So
Yeah.
they're stacked at the talent. They're stacked at talented positions all over.
Yeah, and this team's just gonna get better when, like you said, when they get their
Funny ask for Poco back.
and Shockwave.
Yeah,
This team's gonna be incredible when they get, and I think they're gonna be another really top team. And I don't think Shanghai is gonna be. If anything says about how they're playing right now, I don't think Shanghai or Chengdu can or NYXL can really compete with that.
I think Chengdu can, but we'll move on. So our next segment here, predictions. Take it
I'd
away.
say we should go real simple on these though, because we are running pretty long on time.
Yeah, I need to sleep. I have work tomorrow. But first, the first game that I want to have everyone predict about is the New York Excelsior versus Chengdu Hunters game, and I'm gonna go first. I have them winning. New York winning 3-2.
Whoa! Hot takes.
I have them winning. Sam, what's your prediction for that game?
Honestly, I need one of New York's DPS to be able to play the Sombra if Chengdu is running a ball, and if they are able to counter the ball, I see New York winning. But Chengdu can pull out any team comp because they're Chengdu, and you have no idea what they're going to pull out, so they pull it out. And I could see Chengdu winning 3-2. I can see New York winning 3-2. It just, it's so hard because you don't know what they're going to do. That's the one thing stopping me. But at the end of the day, I've seen Chengdu play. I haven't seen New York play, so I'll give the edge to Chengdu just for that reason alone until I see New York play and what their strat is and what compositions they want to play.
Okay, Chip.
All right, so just for context, my top 3 APAC rankings are Chengdu, then Philly, then New York. So, yeah, I'm just not that high on Shanghai this year. But I think this Chengdu team, it just says it in the power rankings. They are so strong about winning fights. And I feel like Excelsior, they're going to have a lot of tricks on their sleeve, but they aren't going to be able to fare well against the master of tricks, which is the Chengdu Hunters. So I actually have Chengdu winning 3-1.
Ooh, 3-1. And Quad, what's your prediction for this matchup?
I'm with Sam here. Chengdu 3-2. Keep it nice and simple. Chengdu's looking good. We haven't seen New York yet, but I think they got some potential to take a couple maps off them.
All right. Next matchup: Washington versus Dallas. Let me pull up my rank. Let me pull up my pick'ems real quick because I know I have.
I am in pain.
I'm
in physical pain as a Dallas fan.
I have Washington winning 3-2.
Okay. I have, if anyone can answer the question, is Assassin eligible to play?
Yes.
Or is his birth? Okay, he is eligible to play.
Mm-hmm.
I see Assassin and I see Decay, and I hate to. I'm gonna say 3-1 Washington if Assassin plays, because I could see him just popping off, and I can see Decay popping off on the other side. And I think Mag's going to show why he was the number one ranked tank coming out, and he's going to put up a show at the main tank position and start getting his stonks are going to start rising after this game.
Okay.
I got Washington 3-1.
Chip, what is your prediction? I'm assuming you're going with Dallas, but
You see there. Is this match? You know,
it's almost past your bedtime, Chip. Hurry up.
you right now you remind me of the elves from freaking Elf, like the mall elves. It's like, all right, kid, hurry up. I think if Dallas can sign a hit scan by them, it's going to be a much different story. Washington, I feel like could easily trash them. You know, on the hit scan, but so could have Birdring, you know?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Birdring could have also trashed Dallas on the hit scan. And frankly, I didn't even have faith in Dallas at the moment. I had the Dallas Fuel losing 3-2. They won 2 more maps than I thought they would. And while every fiber of my being is saying to go Washington Justice 3-2.
Oh my god, you're gonna say Dallas, aren't you? You're ridiculous.
Say Dallas Fuel 3-2.
Oh my god.
Watch it! Clip it, and use it against me, or use it against everyone else here, depending on how it goes.
Okay, Quad.
I'm gonna be in here in the freaking Dallas Fuel watch party on Discord if you want to join me, and we're gonna be screaming at the top of our freaking lungs.
Okay, Quad.
Well, I will not be joining that party because that sounds like a little too much. But I'm actually in favor of Dallas on this one, and here's why. I think Justice might be the one team this year that looks to be spectacular, but comes out the gate a little weak.
Yeah, I can see that.
Particularly because you're relying a lot on Decay and Mag, right? The rest of their team are all solid, but Decay and Mag are hard carries. So if they're not able to, if the enemy team is able to shut them down, or if in general they have to take more team fights where it's not just about carry potential, if Decay is not on like a hard carry hero, I'm going to favor Dallas every time because they've got a bigger pool to work with and more flexibility.
NSB's losing his mind in chat.
What was your prediction? Quad?
Dallas, I'm going to say 3-2.
Okay.
Let's go! Rally caps on!
And I want to add one thing to that game. If Zarya does get played, I could see Assassin T2, but DPS, Decay, Mag on the tank line, and that's going to be nice.
And then next one is going to be Boston versus the Gladiators. And I have the Gladiators winning 3-2. Sam, what about you?
All right, rally cap is on.
All right, you lost soon, and it's a big blow. And I will say this, as the CGL Kevster, in Kevster we trust, 3-1 Gladiators.
Chip, no 5-minute reason about it. Get it nice, short, and sweet.
I love Boston, but the Gladiators are just too good. 3-1.
There you go, buddy. Good job. And Quad, what about you?
NSB is right in chat, by the way.
I hate to be that guy, but I'm going Boston 3-2. It's going to be a close game. But I have faith in I'm 37 and Valentine. You can't underestimate those two.
That's why I have it 3-2, man.
You know
it's
what?
Gonna be either
and frankly, Glads are demoralized right now because they're coming off of 2 losses. I still believe in them as a team overarching throughout their whole season. But for this game, I got to give it to Boston.
You know what? Quadski is my Danny Lim. Sign me up for freaking Boston 3-2. I love the sound of that.
Goodness. And then last but not least, I feel like one of the probably the biggest game of the week. Chengdu versus Philly Fusion. What are our thoughts? My thought is, where is it? This is gonna be interesting. I have Chengdu winning 3-2.
With you there.
Chengdu 3-2. Sam, what about you?
I'm gonna say two things. One, this might go 6 or 7 maps,
It could
Easily.
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, I just trust Carpe more than the DPS for them. I got to go Fusion 3-2, but it's probably gonna go 6 or 7 maps.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I was watching ATP Overwatch talk about this. He with definitely he's definitely favoring the DPS matchup because Carpe is just Carpe.
Yes.
And I could see him just taking over this game. Quad, what about you, my guy?
I'm gonna say Chengdu 3-1. I don't think it's gonna go in as many maps as we're talking about here, mostly because I think Chengdu are moving as a unit, and Philly are still reliant on Carpe and reliant on the carries. The same thing as my conversation earlier. In this very versatile meta, you can't rely on hard carries. You gotta rely on who's running the team comps better.
Okay.
All I know is that I'm going to sit back. I'm gonna sit back. No, sit back. Relax. Is it an encore match? No, it's not. I'm
no. Wait.
I'm
Is
so
it?
mad. Why is it not an encore match? Either way, I'm gonna sit back, relax,
Oh, the New York Games
and be
encore
happy
match.
that I have Elsa and Hotba. I'm just gonna be sitting pretty in this game.
All right. So I think that really just wraps it up for our first podcast. It went a lot longer than we were hoping it to. But thank you all for watching. I'm gonna do some quick things for CGL in a second, but thank you guys for being here, and thank you for helping me realize this dream of a podcast. We'll see you all next week, and let me do the CGL, plug some CGL stuff right now. So this weekend, make sure to check out the CGL is hosting a big Injustice 2 tournament. On the first day is going to be on Outward Television at 5 p.m. EST tomorrow, and on the CGL 1 channel on Saturday, $1,000 prize pool. It's going to be huge. They have some big name casters: Mr. Aquaman, Darth Arma, Romanov, and Katana Prime. Make sure to check them out this weekend if you like Injustice or any fighting games in general, as well as a Rocket League tournament coming up this weekend as well, going to be on the CGL 1 channel. I'm not sure, on Sunday for the semifinals and later. But be sure to check out those. Check out the Council Gaming League on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. This wouldn't be possible without them. Thank you all, and good night.